Hello, everyone. This is Lucas Jaffe with KIKO Chat, joined by Sandra Nam, our Chief Operations Officer at KIKO Chat. Today, we have a very special interview for the University of Oregon ASLA student chapter. And the goal here is to discuss how to create a successful mentorship program, especially from the perspective of students at a university and professionals in the field. I'll let the team here introduce themselves. I'll turn it over to student chapter president, Taylor Bowden. And Taylor, would you like to say who is here? How did you organize your team? What was the goal of Shadow Mentor Day? And then we can start getting into some of your planning.
Yeah, so I'm Taylor Bowden, student chapter president of the University of Oregon ASLA, and Nancy Silvers is my vice president. Super job that she did helping us plan. She was integral. Everybody here was integral. Hannah Ketterer, she's the outreach coordinator. Carmela is the communications manager. And Hannah Six is with Oregon ASLA, and she was the student liaison, which helped us connect with professionals. And so Shadow Mentor Day, Nancy, do you want to give us a little rundown of that?
Little history of that. Well, it started. This was the 28th year, so there was already a strong foundation of what this this event was, and then we had this unique opportunity to translate it over into a virtual platform. So, in Shadow Mentor Day, typically students would be paired up with professionals. 1 to 3 students in a group would, on a typical year, travel and and visit firms and different professionals in the landscape architecture field, and spend the day and visit sites, see what happens in the office, and just kind of get a feel for what it's like in the field of landscape architecture. And then, as I had mentioned, yeah, this year was an opportunity where we used a virtual platform. Thank you, KIKO Chat, and it extended this opportunity to reach out across the country and reach out to professionals all over. So I guess we can, if somebody else wants to step in and just kind of mention how we laid it out, how we kind of shifted the event a little this year to the platform.
Yeah, maybe Hannah K, do you want to explain what the events were, perhaps?
Yeah, definitely. So, like Nancy said, we typically pair students with firms, but this year we were able to have more flexibility with the virtual platform. So we paired students with professionals based on interests, and then organized that all through KIKO Chat. Would it be a helpful time? Maybe I can share it. I have it up.
That'd be great.
Just to walk you through our platform. So this was our home page for the platform. As you can see, we reached a ton of people, students and professionals through here. And once you get into our platform, I'll let Carmela take over in a bit because she did an awesome job of laying it all out and designing it. But yeah, everyone was broken into rooms based on topics, and students would, just join their room and join a Zoom chat directly from there, based on the assignments we planned out ahead of time. And we had a couple keynote speakers and panels where everyone got to meet together in the main stage for that. And yeah, this platform just allowed for really seamless transition between all those different events. So yeah, does someone else want to take over?
I'd like to ask a question. Go ahead, Carmel. Why don't you go first, and then I'll ask a question right after you.
Okay. I just wanted to note how the website really allowed us to organize all of the details with the event. So starting with the event schedule, knowing what time the event would be, what event that was, and then also what room each visitor or student would go to, and then allowing us to integrate Google Docs that are actually working Google Docs. So in case something were to change, we can actually fix it and it'll be live on the website. So then that goes for assignments, for event details, and then having information that was also emailed to students beforehand about the panel and about the virtual project tours.
Sandra, did you have a question?
Yeah, great. While that's loading, so was beautifully designed and orchestrated. Could you all talk about when you first started, what were some of the biggest questions that you had, so that those in the audience who are listening and watching can think, how can I start this if I were to want to do something similar or related for their institution, their university?
I would say, like, initially, Taylor, when you and I got together, it was that idea of how do we balance the kind of, I don't want to say intimacy, but that experience of being able to be right there and engaging with a professional, create a kind of a full day of events, but also balance it with what they call Zoom fatigue at this point. How do we keep it engaging and balance that that break? I don't know, that was just even in that core beginning, how are we going to lay this out?
Did you find you
Right.
had to, oh, after you, Taylor.
Oh, I was gonna piggyback onto what Nancy was saying, that definitely the concern at first was how can we like maximize the virtual format? And we were thinking about like what can we do through Zoom? But then Zoom, it didn't seem like there was enough diversity in what we could do with it. And so we were glad to hear about KIKO through ASLA Oregon had done an event with them, including some other landscape architecture events. And I liked the platform when I went to the symposium with Oregon ASLA, and I thought it was cool the way that they could do happy hour breakout rooms so that you could have multiple Zoom rooms so you could program them independently. And so I think that was it was a great call to use a platform for that reason so that we could program things in a more diverse way.
How much time did you spend configuring the tech versus communicating with all of these people? Over 150 people attended. So where did you have to spend most of your team's time?
We all had different roles, which was good for the team. I definitely spent the most of my time just corresponding between professionals, and then as a team, we made the pairings with students, making sure students had instructions on how the day was going to go and what they should expect and if they should prepare anything. Same with the panelists, what have you. So I was in really the correspondence role along with Nancy. Carmela might be able to speak more to what it took to do the technical side.
Yeah, I worked on doing the CSS codes for the platform. So designing the website based on the color, the look of it, the buttons, the format, but then also tagging in Chase, our other outreach coordinator, and Hannah to help me out in terms of, okay, I need help with making a PDF, or I need help with editing the schedule. So then that can be placed into the platform too. So.
Great. Were there any things that you would do differently if you were to run this event again in 6 months? And another way to phrase this is, what worked well and where is an area for improvement where you might raise this as something that people should take a look at before they do a similar event?
I would say that it all went very smoothly. At the happy hour, I think by the end, everyone was feeling a bit tired. I can speak to our happy hour, my happy hour breakout room. I think there were about 6 people in there. And yeah, I think people were just a little done by the end of the day.
How long did it last, Nancy?
It was actually an hour. And then the other thing I just am going to quick speak to is the idea the way that we formatted it, or the rooms that I was in, the professionals would offer, kind of do a presentation. Each of them, we'd have 2 professionals in there, and then there'd be the chat, the time, and an hour flew by. I mean, we all, within sense of being sensitive to making room for everyone to speak, as well as, you know, and you get everybody excited about what they want to talk about. As we know, when you're chatting and you're all excited about something, you know, that can go on, an hour can fly by.
Right. I would also agree with that. And speaking to the logistics of how the day went, we had 3 panelists and we tried to keep them to just like a little over an hour. And that was very hard to do. We didn't even really get to have enough questions. And then we went into our mentorship sessions with students, and those were also an hour long a piece. And within each breakout room, there were about 5 people total. And it just turns out if you have 5 people in a room and they all want to chat, then an hour is just like nothing. And so doing that twice, and then we did our virtual project tours, which was another hour, and that was two presentations. And I think that one was timed out pretty well. So what I would change for the future would probably be to kind of maybe extend some of those time frames, or just do maybe a little bit less and dedicate the time to the panels to make sure that nothing gets rushed, dedicate a little bit more time to the mentorship room so that everyone gets to have like a really quality experience and not too much. I also wish that we used the spatial chat more. If we had directed them there for happy hour in the first place, I think it would have been really fun.
Excellent. So in terms of the flow of the event, everybody started together, and then there was a second activity together, and then a third activity breaking out. Can you walk through again how that worked, and maybe where you would have put the networking of spatial chat? For those who are listening that don't know, spatial chat is a tool where you can move yourself closer to someone and you'll be paired up on audio, video in small groups, and you move yourself to the other part of the screen and it'll be quieter. You won't hear those people. You'll be speaking with new people. So speaking to the flow of how you got everybody together, and then when they broke out, if you want to share any more detail about that and where maybe spatial chat could have gone instead.
Right. So for spatial chat, I think that during happy hour, it would have been a lot more engaging to use, because the other breakout, what we ended up doing is we had 2 breakout rooms for happy hour, and one was filled up with like over 15 people, and there's no way that 15 people can talk at the same time. So it was typically like 2 people talking for X amount of time and everyone just watching them, which is super weird. But if we had done like the virtual, oh, I just lost the name,
Spatial chat?
the spatial chat, then that would have prevented that awkwardness, because you can create your own little bubbles of conversation while still see who's in the room and move around. So that's where I would have definitely used spatial chat. Um, and if we hadn't have packed this event so tightly in the schedule, I think that it would have been a good time for like a extended break period that people could go into the spatial chat. But the way that we had it, like I was saying, the schedule was so tightly packed, that we were just jumping from one event to the next rapidly, and so maybe would have extended some of that time. And overall, the event went from 12 to 6 when you include the happy hour. So it's a pretty full day of, being on Zoom, but it didn't feel too much like it. I think it felt shorter than it actually was, which is always the goal.
Excellent. And you started, it sounded at 12 Pacific time. So there were some folks perhaps on the East Coast that were professionals joining, and it seems like these time zones work. Nobody had to wake up too early in the day, so that works out pretty well. The other questions on my mind, and maybe Sandra, you have any to add too, would be, did anything surprise you about this, or how was the feedback from participants? How does this event compare in retrospect to doing it in person? So any of those questions are open.
Well, I can say that the feedback we got was like very much overwhelmingly positive, that people were happy that we didn't have to, stop the 28th annual tradition of this event just because we couldn't meet in person. And so people were glad that we were able to adapt it. Um, so that was a big win for our team and something I can definitely take with me and feel proud about afterwards. Um, and Other feedback that we received, people liked the breakout room sessions a lot. They liked the ability to do that, and using KIKO, we were able to make it very organized and very clear. So people found everything very easy to use, which was also a huge plus when we're wrangling 160 people. Um, yeah, the only thing is that they wish they had more time with students and like more time in the events.
I just want to add on the moving around the platform. It was nice to have KIKO where it was like really organized and it's like, yes, I know where I'm going, but not have the forced movement that like Zoom does when it's like assign breakout rooms and you're just kind of shipped off. It was more realistic of like, now I would walk to this room, but now I'm going to click on this room. So I think it was a good way to have it organized, yet make it feel more organic. Like I'm going to this room myself and I'm moving here. And if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I would like to point a lot of this clarity and ease of use is the platform, but it was also the immense amount of communication that the students did. And that in particular, Taylor created a YouTube video that kind of showcased the platform, and that was provided before the event, and it got quite a few views. I think like over 60. And so that was a pretty well used resource for people who use the platform. And I think that allowed for a day of logistics to go really well. And in adapting the platform, I think it's also important to say that this event expanded in so many ways, and it had new legs of having panels and keynote speakers that didn't happen necessarily in person for this event and its history. And I think also one of the other things that was really a big gem of having it on KIKO Chat is having multiple professionals and multiple students in the same room, whereas when we had it in person, it would be one student with one firm. And so I think that was one of the really great aspects of having it virtual.
That's great. Go ahead, Nancy. Would you want to add something?
Oh, I was just going to respond to Hannah's point as well, in that typically, yeah, you would go to a specific firm, whereas because it was balanced on interests, it was really great because we could pull people from different firms, and then they're getting to know one another if they don't already as well. So it was a really great, empowering moment for both professionals and students. I think I liked that.
Great. On the heels of that, do you have any feedback from others, both on the professional side and on the student side, of the value that they received, if they did, and how it was felt or experienced and then communicated?
I could talk a bit to that. I mean, we had professionals emailing the dean of our school being like, I want to be more involved. And this event was so impressive. And I was so happy with engaging with students. And, how can I be more involved? Which is like, in any world, having people volunteer, but especially under the pandemic circumstances, somebody saying like, hey, I want to be more involved is really exciting. So yeah, I think, and also in providing for the professionals, we were able to get LACES credits. And so that provided a little bit of a feedback loop between the professionals volunteering their time and being able to have some learning credits that they were taking away from it.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, and I also wanted to speak to um, the ease of volunteering for professionals because the event was virtual, that they didn't have to like dedicate an entire day to showing somebody around or what have you, they just had to be present for like at least 2 hours of the day, and it allowed a lot more people that may not have been involved otherwise to participate with us. So it asked for a little bit less in some ways and allowed people to give a little bit more in some ways.
I would also say that beforehand, and this is something in the past that the executive committee had put out there of like, okay, kind of be prepared, like do your research on the firm. And then also we really encourage students to be like, we almost want to say like they're human, like you're in this room together, like really take this opportunity that you're really having, kind of getting this one-on-one with a professional in your field. So I wouldn't say it was like a coaching, but really trying to encourage people to really embrace that opportunity that almost in a sense is a little more daunting at times, stepping up to someone at, in the firm. Hi, I'm, this person. And, this was, I don't know, it seemed a little bit, would you guys agree? Just it seemed a little bit more, it was more approachable or accessible, it felt like.
I'd say in part that was also being really clear about our expectations for both professionals and for students. Like we told professionals, you can give a little short blurb about yourself for the first 5-10 minutes. And that wasn't, it could be formal, it could be informal, you can do what you want with it. Just know that like this is a casual conversation between like mentor and mentee. And we told students that as well. It's like you don't really have to prepare anything, but like consider some questions that you want asked. Like this is your opportunity. And that was less intimidating in a lot of ways.
The last question that I had, Sandra, do you have one? I'll turn it over to you if you have any more questions. The other question I have is not necessarily about this event, but looking forward and looking at the needs of students and the needs of professionals that need to fill their firms with qualified talent. Do students need one-on-one relationships with mentor-mentee going forward, or is a group setting better or sufficient? What do students need to know more about the field as they progress year to year, getting their degree? Does group or one-on-one make a difference?
I think both. I think both have their benefits. I think just like exposure in general and networking in general is a huge asset, if not a must, in our field. I think you can network and be exposed, whether that is a one-on-one meeting or in a group setting. So I think a setting like ours, where it was 2 professionals to 2 to 3 students, is like definitely a very sufficient form of networking, because I could reach out to one of the professionals I met that day and very comfortably be like, hey, I'm Hannah. I met you at this day. And I have a feeling they would remember, because, they only met, I don't know, 4 to 6 students that day. So I think both, but if you're, reserved or a little shyer, like group settings are still, I think, just as sufficient as one-on-ones in terms of networking. I don't know if someone else wants to echo that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that it's typically a network of people that support, students and emergent professionals in guiding them along their pathway of finding, their, most ideal firm. And I think oftentimes one mentor can't be to one student. Like students need multiple mentors in order to figure out that route. And I think this group setting was really well facilitating of that and giving alternatives on how different practices go about and what kind of projects they go after. So I think the group setting gives a lot of exposure to the opportunities of, all the avenues that landscape architecture offers.
Great to hear. And you are kind of inventing something new here. It's because this didn't exist before the pandemic, and many other universities that don't have 28 years of history with it, they didn't start off with they started off from zero. So we're inventing something new here, and it's great to see how you put it together. Look like Sandra had a question, and then we'll turn it back over to the team for closing thoughts.
Yeah, I love what you said, Hannah, about that you need several mentors to kind of make the decision of where you need help. And we as a team, we're constantly connecting people and bringing communities together. And I'd love to know if all of you or any of you have advice on how to continue, especially in this online format, to continue that connection. That, as you said, it's sort of a combination of the group and the one-on-one. So from your experience now using the platform, would you have any advice for us about how we can continue to mentor others and have the mentorship grow in other communities?
Well, I can definitely say that we felt comfortable using the KIKO platform largely because you, Sandra, were so generous in helping us figure it out and making sure that we also felt comfortable with it. And I sent you so many emails that you got to promptly immediately. So it was, yeah, that was never a constraint for us. Like the platform never ended up being something that was going to become a headache at any point. And there were plenty of other things that were giving me a headache. So I appreciate that it wasn't this.
Thank
I
you.
think I think moving forward in terms of like continuing to connect, like we are going to start, having more in-person things, which is awesome. But I think in order to keep things like this alive and is to really take advantage of like the geographic distance that this kind of diminishes. And so, yeah, I think just really emphasizing that platforms like this, like, yeah, we obviously really value in-person connection more, but things like this and events like this really allow you to like be in contact with so many more people. So I think emphasizing the connection across distance is something that I think this platform is awesome for. And I think, a positive that came out of this last year of being able to do things like that.
Great to hear. Well, let's open it up for any closing thoughts, any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share with others who are in your shoes a month before you began.
I guess just for me, knowing that you have so many organizations available to help make your project come alive, be it us working closely with Oregon ASLA, who were eager to make sure that we got the professionals we needed, to our department head, Roxy, who made sure that we had what we needed to contact students and get in touch with students, and the teachers as well. They were all on board. And then, having a reliable platform with really helpful people on it too. So, it's definitely a team effort, but in the end came together really, really nicely.
Well, congrats to the University of Oregon ASLA student chapter, and we hope that you got everything you needed out of it and that others can learn from what you talked about here. Thank you very much for being so generous with your time to share these lessons learned. We'll post this recording online, and we look forward to seeing what others build from what you've learned here, and we look forward to seeing you online. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye.